afternoon and welcome to the Authors Hour. My name is Catherine D'Agostino and I represent Friends of the Chautauqua Writers Center. We are a volunteer organization whose mission it is to promote writing and writers on the institution grounds and beyond by both supporting and supplementing the activities of the Chautauqua Writers Center. We sponsor several events each week. On Sundays at 5 o'clock in the Prose Room on the second floor of this building, writers and listeners 18 years old and above are invited to participate in an open mic session. On Fridays at 1:15 in the Garden Room on the first floor of this building, we offer an informal critique session. Writers are invited to bring in 10 copies of one single-spaced page of their prose or poetry for feedback, guided by John Bradigan, a professional writer who has taught courses at the Writers Center. And today, as part of the Tuesday Authors Hour reading series, 2 Chautauqua writers will present their work. I will tell you about our special events after our first author reads. Books will be for sale after the readings, and we'll also have time for a short Q&A. Our first reader, Pat Owen, is the author of 4 volumes of poetry: Crossing the Sky Bridge, Orion's Belt at the End of the Drive, Bardo of the Coming, and The Crossroad. Her work has appeared in Hong Kong Review, Gulfstream Literary Magazine, the Louisville Review, Raven's Perch, and Highland Park Poetry, as well as in numerous anthologies. She was an award winner in the Chautauqua Literary Arts Contest. Most recently, she was selected as a finalist in the Atlanta Review International Poetry Competition, and her poem, 1974 Sanibel Island, was published in the fall 2024 Atlanta Review. Please welcome Pat Owen.
Thank you all so much for coming. I'm trying to put on a timer here. Let's see if I can do it. My book, The Crossroad, is my 4th. There's some difficult, wrenching poems in it from times I made serious decisions that affected my life. Maybe some of you have done similar things. The first poem, The Crossroad, is the title poem of the book. The Crossroad. I used to tell Ellen early on, my heart hurts. I'd left a sanctioned life, an approved life. I permanently abandoned the life I'd been given. I remember a time sitting on the floor of the hallway, going through hand-embroidered linens I'd been given as wedding gifts and bursting into tears. I knew I'd hurt and mystified those close to me. The effect on my young children still unknown. I only knew I had to leave. I had to choose a path in tune with my bloodstream. Only then could I own my bone marrow, breathe into the depths of my lungs. The next poem, 1974, Sanibel Island. I'm at the payphone outside our cottage, 9 o'clock every night. The air moist and foggy, the kids finally asleep, and me standing under the glow of a mellow light, talking to my beloved 3 states away. To get there, I drove 1,022 miles, the captain of this small ship, kids in the back cheering the turn of each triptych page. It meant we were getting closer to paradise. What they didn't know, this wasn't just a vacation. I see their heads, fragile, in the rearview mirror. In memory, the three of us walked the beach searching for shells, sand buckets in our hands. My youngest running up to me, holding up a broken sand dollar. Is this one interesting? After hours collecting shells, we blow the sand off each one, wash them in a bucket of water, place them in careful rows on the back porch, voting each day for our favorite. The pool, a must every afternoon. Kids in inner tubes, twirling themselves round and round in circles. Trips to the library, trips to the craft shop, sitting on the floor of the sandy porch playing Go Fish. Blonde heads, brown shoulders, the scent of sunscreen. Their long limbs growing so fast. I'd study them asleep, trying to envision an unknown future. In my mind, a magical glow pervades that time, our little world of three, so much hanging in the balance. All the while, I ponder whether I have the grit to leave a loveless marriage, to be with the woman I love. I fear losing my children, as much a part of me as my blood and bones. Fear the fissure to their world if I follow my other heart. All through my child-centered day, I longed for 9 o'clock, the receiver in my hand, speaking with my love 1,000 miles away. The intimacy of those words spoken under a black star-speckled sky. She says she'll drive down nonstop, an 18-hour trip to see me after the kids are in bed. Our love was such the sand sparkled, glittered in the darkness when we first walked together on the beach. I know science can explain this, but we believed we were magic. This poem is on page 8, Terry Cloth Road, for those of you who have a book and want to follow along. This is a poem about an object that has significance far beyond an object. Maybe there's something in your life similar to this. It's called Terry Cloth Robe. I'm still warmed by the terry cloth robe we bought so many years ago in Provincetown. I can still see you donning it on crowded Commercial Street. Among a sea of people, you spotted our friends weaving toward us and wore it as a joke. In the parade of outlandishness, men with plumes in their hats and parrots on their shoulders, we were part of the mix. I hope the robe will still be here long after I'm gone. It's now a little worn, its blue stripes faded, the deep pockets drooping after years of toting reading glasses, fountain pens, ink stains permeate the weave. Made in Turkey boast its origins, though not the origin in my mind. I envision my daughters eyeing it, wondering why I kept it so long. No way for them to know its meaning, a grief and consolation that cannot be moved beyond. Warmth swaddling my vulnerable body. The next poem, Midsummer, is on page 7. Midsummer. Midsummer is at its peak now. Oak leaf hydrangea, languorous, drooping, blush with white blossoms. They hang pendulous as breast. She could never be happy till they were trimmed to nubbins, a sharp blade and broken stems all over the ground. 1 year in fury at their mutilation, petulant as a child, I announced, I want to move. She had destroyed my plants, killed my desire to be here. Now, of course, they're back, heavy with the weight of beauty, a reminder of my folly, all that's now gone. The next poem, August 16th at Cave Hill. It's on page 14. This is a letter to the beloved. August 16th, her birthday, and Cave Hill is a cemetery in Louisville. Dear baby, early this morning in the dark, a light flickered high on the wall above my bed. In this world of mysteries, it was probably a reflection, but I wondered if it was you. Are the dead aware of the living? Everything in me wants to say yes. The ground here is dry and parched, and I don't understand anything more than I ever did. Sometimes I think you'll just appear. I'll walk in the house and there you'll be, or I'll drive in our old neighborhood and you'll be walking Saxon. Who knows what happened to the past? A few drops of rain, and I head to the car with you and without you. The next poem, I try to remember her, a cobbler, is on page 18. Many of you have children, and if you can try to go back in time when those children were toddlers and what your relationship was to them now, and then think of them as the current adult and your relationship with them now. That's sort of the root of this poem. I try to remember her, a toddler, standing in front of the fridge, watermelon juice streaked down her chest. She was all mine, recently part of my body. I could sweep her up, face to face, kisses all over her head. You are my sweet baby, I chant, putting her in a basket on my bike, pedaling around the neighborhood, describing all we were seeing. Now I go to her for advice. She, solid and professional in her long white lab coat, a responsible mother with daughters of her own. I try to bring back holding her close in a waiting room, her small body hot, fast beating heart, temple wet against my own, stroking her head, tender and soft as a melon. Every ounce of my will lasered to keeping her alive, our survival interlocked. The next poem is Buena Vista. It's on page 19. This is a poem about family and what we give to them, what they carry on into the future. Buena Vista, Colorado. My grandkids are out running in this 8,000-foot altitude, rugged and fearless, faces alike. The atmosphere is rarefied, the air crystalline, the clothes form-fitting, lightweight, insulated, and waterproof. This stuff could go to the moon. And today, I'm going with them, despite the flab on my belly and my many decades on Earth. They kindly stopped to rest with me several times on our loop, with not a shred of disparagement. We're surrounded by saturated blues and greens, the tawny tan of sandstone. Striding ahead of me on the path, my granddaughters, almost identical, their broad shoulders and long-legged, loose gait, blonde hair swinging, glinting in the sun. These young Amazons thrived in a time when their strength was affirmed. As I huff and puff, I imagine my wind at their back. Mountain bikers careen by us through the narrow, rocky ridged path. Down below, fly fishermen and waders and the laughter of kids and inflated river rafts. Exuberance sparkles in the air. We breathe it all in. This poem is called Ode to My Father. It's on page 25. I don't know about your relationship with your father, but I think it can change over time and change after the death of the parent when you mature and see the value of a life lived and what they've given you. This poem is based on a poem by Denise Duhamel. I don't know exactly how to say that name, Duhamel. It's called Ode to My Father. Man of making breakfast for the kids, French toast slightly charred with sweet maple syrup. Man of newspaper reading, late afternoon, feet on the ottoman, standing lamp glowing. He of soft hands, books stacked nearby. Man with errands to run, cleaners and car wash, helping around the house with laundry, vacuuming. He called someone else to make repairs. Man of hands upraised in the pulpit, inviting forward those who yearn to be saved, visiting parishioners in the hospital, holding their hands in his. He of Sunday afternoon lemonade and hand cranked peach ice cream, crushed ice and salt overflowing. Man of a sweet tooth who would eat sugar on a biscuit. Man of dress clothes, shirt with a collar and dress pants, no t-shirt and jeans. Man of ironed boxer shorts who drank his instant coffee from a Melmac cup. Sports loving man watching wrestling on a Sunday afternoon until he decided to boycott because of beer ads. Man who listened to boxing matches on the radio. Sponsor of family picnics in the park, a wicker basket of fried chicken and potato salad, slick red plastic plates, man of taking the kids to the doctor's school conferences, minister proud of his funerals, dignity and honor freely bestowed, a scholar of hymns, ritual prayers, a hand around a shoulder, words of comfort. He of the 20-minute power nap, man of family board games, head back belly laugh, shiny black Bible smooth to the palm, man of hands with no calluses, made as they were for turning pages, making outlines, soothing the distressed. Man of walking with shoulders back, head high, and I, his resilient daughter. Okay, a little lightness here. Health Department pool inspector, page 31. Maybe you've met someone like this who take their job very seriously. The health department pool inspector takes his position seriously. With his authority to shut down the pool for any small infraction, he takes his time making the rounds, especially if condo residents are present. In his cargo shorts and navy polo shirt, he strides around the pool with military efficiency, speaking briskly to each swimmer and lounger in turn. Good morning. How are you today? I feel like we should click our heels and salute. Then, over the next 20 minutes, he scrutinizes the chemicals with care, rechecks them, examines the lock on the gate, studies the emergency phone, ascertains there aren't too many people in the pool, inspects the condition of the rescue equipment and the contents of the skimmer baskets. Then he pores over his cell phone and his clipboard notepad one more time, making the rounds again, just to be sure. Finally, with great flourish, ladies, I bid you good day. Me to my friend, I'm surprised I didn't get cited for my feet on the table. And she to me, yeah, that blue nail polish, I'm sure that's not regulation. The next one is Gist of the Gist, page 41. This is about the poet Marie Howe, who's one of my favorites, just won a Pulitzer Prize. And her poetry philosophy is similar to mine. The gist of the gist. All Marie Howe tries to do, communicate the essence of being alive. And she does it sparingly. Just the gist of the gist. I want to see how she pares away the extraneous when all we need is the root dangling with mud and the blossom glinting with dew. The next one is Thumbprint. It's on page 47. This is why I write. Thumbprint. Today my new book will arrive in a big cardboard box. The book's green covered and filled with my life. I'm anticipating this event like a woman with a belly long swollen in Houston in August. How long I've awaited this day, 9 months at least, an appropriate time for the birth of a child. though the poems took years to create. My baby's almost here, and what will I do with her, yearning to be worthy of this life, my DNA in print? There's nothing like seeing it in final form, in the flesh, so to speak, to hold it, to know it's real, a tangible being to leave behind with my distinctive thumbprint. Is that my 2 minute? Okay. Well, I think I should read my Chautauqua poem. It's on page 71. This is a true story that happened right here. It's called Chautauqua Amphitheater Sunday Morning. The blue-robed choir never stops their fervent singing, though medics are rushing down the steps to assist the man crumpled to the floor. They kneel around him like attending angels, with one tech lifting a glucose bag toward the sky. His wife in a crisp striped shirt stands frantically tapping on her cell phone. Nearby, people are passing cushions to prop up his body. It feels like sirens should be screaming. I'm holding my breath. My stomach a gripped fist. Why is it taking so long? Someone hugs the wife. The organ, triumphant, plays on. I keep checking my watch. Millennia pass. Finally, 4 medics carry him in a blue rubber sling up the stairs. Behind them, the woeful parade of wife, family, and friends. The choir continues to sing. My mind remains on the fallen man even after the fiery woman, priest, collared, and Episcopal, begins her sermon. Still, I can't concentrate. When have our own cries been unheard? How quickly we can crumble, hoping kind hands will be there to lift us up. So last one is called Sign at Camp Sanborn. It's on page 57. This advice given to kids at an away camp, but how can it apply to us as well? The sign on the cafeteria wall at Camp Sanborn says, "A shark in an aquarium will grow 8 inches. A shark in the ocean will grow 8 feet. The same is true of you." What if I hadn't been such a rule follower? Would I be enlarged by adventure, more oxygen in my blood, quicker firing synapses, more alive, days not blurring one into another? Would I have sheltered in a foreign land, my shoulders broader, taking on the persona of the heroic, my chest bursting the seams of my superwoman outfit? Of course, behind this drama hangs the curtain of karma. We all arrive with defined parents, genes, protoplasm. It's not nothing. At the end of the day, I'd like to say, I've chosen. I grew here as tall as I could, and I've left these words. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. For the next series of announcements, one was just added today. Friends of the Chautauqua Writing Center, in collaboration with the Friends of the Chautauqua Theater Company, will honor the passing of a past Chautauqua speaker, cartoonist, and writer, Jules Pfeiffer, by reading selected scenes from his play, Pfeiffer's People, on Tuesday, July 29th at 4 o'clock in the ballroom of the second floor of Alumni Hall. The Friends of Chautauqua Writers Center sponsor several special events. This summer's Authors Among Us book fair was held on Sunday, July 13th from 11:30 until 2 o'clock on Bester Plaza, and will be held in mid-July next year again. If you have a published book you'd like to sell, please apply at chq.org/FCWC. The annual writing contest for writers of all ages closes this Saturday, July 27th. You can find out more about the rules and how to submit your work at chq.org/FCWC. On August 4th, the Friends will hold the annual Robert Pinsky Favorite Poem Project at 5 o'clock in the Hall of Philosophy. At this gathering, selected Chautauquans read their favorite poem and briefly explain why it means so much to them. That's right, applications for next year are available at chq.org/FCWC. And just a reminder, at the end, we will have books for sale and a brief question and answer period. Our next reader is Carol Townsend. Carol received her BS in Art from Nazareth College in Rochester and her MFA in Applied Design and Ceramics from Ohio University. She served as an associate professor of art and design and former chair of the design department at Buffalo State University prior to her retirement. As an award-winning ceramicist and mixed media artist, her works are represented in numerous collections. She has been a frequent participant in the Chautauqua Writers Center poetry workshops and served on the board of the Friends of the Chautauqua Writers Center for a number of years. Her poems have appeared in the journals Voices de la Luna, Sow's Ear, The Healing Muse, the Cafe Review, as well as in the Buffalo News. She has been an invited reader in The Gray Hair, Rooftop, Word Flight, Red Door, Literary Cafe Series, A Musical Feast, Drop Hammer, and the Buffalo Corner Reading Series. One of her poems was selected for the Public Art Project, Bufflit on the Move, sponsored by Just Buffalo Literary Center and the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority. Her chapbook, A Cinder in My Knee, was published in 2016, and her full-length books, The Color of Shadows in 2019 and The Songs of Leaves in 2025, all by Buffalo Arts Publishing. An avid gardener and photographer, she resides with her husband John and Minnie Dachshund Loki in Snyder, New York. Welcome, Carol Townsend.
It's with gratitude I stand here because my whole writing career really started in this building, taking workshops from the Chautauqua Writers Center. So thanks very much to this organization. I'd like to, before I start, just read a little something from Mary Oliver, who has said that poetry is a life-cherishing force. For poems are not words after all, but fires for the cold, ropes let down to the lost, something as necessary as bread in the pockets of the hungry. And so we begin. This book is hot off the press. It has my own photographs in it, and the title is The Songs of Leaves, and there are photographs of leaves with quotations from people like Sarah Teasdale, for example. First one is cardinals. A cardinal drags a fiber from last spring's daffodils into the interior of the weeping mulberry standing outside our window. I jot in my journal, sip coffee, while she weaves this and whatever else she has gathered. The door opens and closes from her shallow, haphazard bowl, our comings and goings noted only by shift of watchful eye, her orange beak a beacon, but her body a shadow easily missed. 2 weeks pass, pale green leaves unfurl, the mail brings her food,
even as my husband prepares the morning meal. Soon, 3 naked heads emerge. Feathers sprout, appetites increase. Soon, the trio outgrows the nest. Today, I stand on tiptoe, peer in, hoping to spot the roost. It is empty, pledged, fallen, prey for the neighborhood cat. This has transpired in the same time that it has taken me to write this poem, which may or may not fly. As you can probably tell, I am a storyteller using the poetic form. This is a Chautauqua poem. I shopped last year at that farmer's market that's on Vester today, and I found the most fabulous lettuce and had to write about it. In fact, the poem is shaped like one of the lettuce leaves. Cut off at its base, the head is flawless. I hold it aloft, rotate, admire, note, not a bug bite in sight. Copious leaves radiate like petals of an alien flower, swells of silky, deeply lobed, flouncy leaves, wavy, glossy, still morning dew damp. Colossal, a rich burgundy red at its edges, fading to pale green toward the core. Bits of earth cling to tender crevices formed by ribs and veins. I exclaim that this is the most dazzling lettuce I have ever seen. The vendor disregards me, says, $4. Please, cash. And I think that there should be no price tag on beauty. And what a shame it will be to chew a Rembrandt at dinner tonight. But to swallow such perfection must be a sacrament. This is a childhood story. It's called Stung. At Albertson's Market in Las Cruces, a man left his Buick window partway down. He returned to a swarm of 1,500 honeybees busy in the back seat. 2 hobby beekeepers in white jackets and net hats solved the problem. For me, in the sweltering back seat of a Mercury, it was a different story. When trapped by a wasp, my parents would simply say, "Don't move." But no matter how still I sat, I was always stung, maybe by the same wasp each time, living to sting another day. It is said that a wasp sighting prompts one to map the way toward dreams, or to remember that all things are possible. Yet being stung by one must be a bad omen, like as a child swelled up for days. Or maybe the wasp is a healer, a female warrior. If so, I must be really blessed, for I felt her sword. Here's kind of a funny one from France. Maybe you're familiar with that bridge that has all of the locks on it. And I was there when they were taking this down because it was on the verge of collapse under all the weight. So it's called Pont des Arts Paris. Locks line the bridge, thousands of brass tongues gripping wires of cross-hatched panels. Under the weight of 45 tons of everlasting love, purchased for euros, sections sag, fall onto the walkway. As walkers dismantle corroded segments, weeping willows rooted along the Seine whisper their lovesick songs. Couples look on, wistful, as though metal clasp above this river can guarantee ironclad affection. So maybe some of you have foods you cannot resist, just cannot resist. Mine is peanut brittle. So this is a poem called Ode to Peanut Brittle. One piece is never enough. ... I place a nugget on my tongue, blame my new husband who was warned not to bring you, the seductress, home. Who can resist salty sweetness? I savor your richness. My mouth waters just thinking about you. I try, really, truly, to control myself, but break off another portion. To avoid your sticky siren call, I fold the flap into place, tuck the box onto the lower shelf of a dining room cabinet, bury it under a stack of placemats. Do some housework, dream about the next bite, lament my lack of willpower as I surreptitiously subtract another small chunk. Okay, true. Again, I try hiding the pound box, this time under the sofa, so that I will have to get down on hands and knees. Aha, too much work, I think. Yes, he did not believe it, incredulous on the morning of the next day, upon finding the box, empty, concealed under newspaper in the recycle bin. Oh, peanut brittle, I am sorry. Simple admiration of your amber beauty, your body so translucent with its studding of gem-like nuts is never sufficient. Okay, here's my Chautauqua amphitheater poem, dueling poems. Maybe some of you remember when Travis Tritt was here. It was a number of years ago. So this one's called Travis Tritt Tunes Up the Old Amp at Chautauqua. Bass reverberates up through the floor and its wooden pews upon which we perch. Marcy tosses her bleached blonde hair, says, "We may be blind as bats, but we can hear." Let me get some more. They really had the sound turned up. She fans herself like a banshee, cools the whole row. She's from Nashville. Olivia's neck is pumping back and forth like a chicken swallowing grit. Cables thick as anacondas snake down from the cabinet. Think voltage in 90-degree heat. Smoke machines crank up. Lights flash like the second coming, like Jesus is going to bound onto the stage. But it is only famous Travis Tritt in leather pants. Hot. He spews hillbilly poetry, swilled whiskey, and the willing women loved too much. But it's the couples dancing in the back row, the full-bodied, sweaty contact, the hands caressing buttocks that gets to me. Think voltage. Well, here's a COVID poem. I think probably every poet alive has written something about COVID. This one is called What If? What if COVID variants are players from an ancient gene pool traveling with fellow salesmen, floating in the gray area between living and non-living, each carrying a bulging suitcase full of gadgets, hiding cough, headache, sore throat, runny nose, wrapped in misleading packaging. They knock on closed doors, never considering themselves alien invaders. But when a window is found open, they slide through, shed their coats, sit down at the table, ask for coffee, display their wares at great discount. After a host is hooked, they make themselves right at home, snoop through drawers, borrow Amazon accounts, bother the neighbors, and before you know it, their fingers are in everything. Now, sometimes you hear or overhear a conversation and you just can't let it go because it's so strange. So I call these kind of found poems. They kind of drop into your ears accidentally. This one is called Overheard from the Next Table. And this is what I heard. In the path of the solar eclipse, everything, even shadows, turned purple blue. Snakes danced in the driveway. Now she has my attention. I imagine iridescent scales gleaming in the shadows, the rippling of long muscle. But the woman lunching nearby has already moved on. Well, wait, I wanted to ask. Was it ballet or ballroom? Definitely not polka nor swing. Maybe a cobra waltzing under the thrall of Terpsichore, a serpent's tango with Eve in paradise. As I am envisioning snake slither, my dining companion fidgets, squirms, slowly twisting in his seat, creating his own dance of sorts. His hearing wasn't as sharp as mine. I don't know how much more time.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, I'll read one more. This is the last poem in the book. It's called Weather, like gorgeous weather. If words were snowflakes, I would be knee deep in them, write a novel. But I compose poems, choose few words, labor to reveal pavement hidden beneath. With shovel, I remove snow from sidewalks for paperboy and mailman. I bend to examine leaves frozen fast against icy earth, their songs long silenced. With pen, I arrange words on the page, attempt to clear a path between you and me. Thank you very much.
We have time for some questions and answers from our authors. Would anyone like to start? Yes. Yes.
Me.
Yep.
So as a visual artist and designer, does that play into, like, do you see your poems before you choose the words for them?
Do you see the poems before you choose the words for them?
Well, yes, my background is working with my hands. I grew up on a farm, and being a farm kid, we had to entertain ourselves. And I think that sharpened my perception of things because I would disappear after breakfast and wander our 150 acres finding things. And as a visual artist, we hone our powers of perception And I think that's very much akin to what a poet does when they notice things about their lives or what's around them. And so you ask me if I see my poems as some sort of concrete construction before I write them down. I'm surprised by my writing in the poetic form because I never really can anticipate what's going to fall out of my head. And that's what I think keeps me writing, perhaps what keeps Pat writing also, is that something will occur to you and you cannot get it out of your head until you let it out and until it spills onto the page. And then you form it, you work with it. So I know, Pat, if you want to address it. Okay, she's agreeing.
Any other questions? Yes.
Well, you said then after the idea spills out on the page and then you work with that. So I was curious about the revision process or how you go about making a poem out of the thoughts that come out.
Okay, so discuss your revision process after you have your original product on the paper, your original thought. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, my practice is I do a stream of consciousness kind of writing every day about what's going on in my life, and then I go back later and hone it into a poem. Sometimes it takes several reworkings, and I'll try it in couplets and tercets and quatrains and long lines and short lines, and where do you break it? It's just a matter of trying it and see what happens, and reading it aloud, see how it flows, see if the words can be improved. Is there a more specific word that works better, a word that has sound connotations in it? So it's just practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
I really respect the revision process. And for a long time, I was writing everything out in longhand and throwing what was falling out of my head into shoeboxes. And now I throw them into folders on the computer as they go through various stages. And sometimes poems take years to gestate, and sometimes these little bits and pieces that you have years later knit together into something completely different than what you had intended. And I agree with Pat, the form that the poem is in can become really important too, how it looks on the page. So I have a poem about those snakes in Florida. You hear about those snakes in Florida? And so my poem snakes down the page. It'll travel with that long enough so it's snake-like enough. And other times things are in just 2 lines or 3 lines or 4 lines, or sometimes they have spaces in between, and sometimes the letters of the words are separated. It depends upon what you are trying to convey, not just to yourself, but to your reader as well. It has to make sense, I think, to the reader.
Janae, question.
How do you know when a poem ends?
How do you know when a poem ends is the question.
How to end?
I think it's intuitive, and I think you live with it and you see how it ends today, but maybe tomorrow or next week it has a different ending. It's satisfying. What's the famous thing? It ends with inevitability and surprise, which seems a contradiction, but if it's a surprise but it also feels inevitable, then you've hit the jackpot.
I usually have the beginning line and the ending line, but it's the middle stumps me at times. But I agree basically with what Pat said.
Yes.
When did you start writing poetry? Have you always, is it something you've always done? When did you start?
And the question is, when did you start writing poetry?
For a long time, I told people I started writing poems when Ellen was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer in 1996. But looking back at old journals, I remember as early as a teenager, I thought, and I wrote down in journals, I thought anything I'm doing that's not writing is a waste of time. So I think it may have predated 1996.
I started writing because of a challenge that my late husband threw out. He had grown up in a big city. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and he thought my stories about farm life were so strange and funny and weird that I should write them down for my nieces and nephews. And I said, I don't know. I mean, I chaired an academic department and taught, and I wrote memos and I wrote grants, but I never wrote short stories. So I signed up here at Chautauqua for a short story workshop, and the woman who was running it said, oh no, your stories are real short and your language is poetic. You march over here to the Chautauqua Writers Center. So at age 50, I came over here, and then, I've been back for a couple of weeks every year, and this is my third book. It's just incredible. You never know what awaits you.
Yes.
Have you ever written or thought about writing a sequel to any of your poems?
Have you ever thought of writing a sequel to one of your poems?
I'm not sure I have, but I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, whatever comes to your mind with a certain buzz or energy or something you can't turn away from, there's magic there. So you never turn away from that.
In the beginning section of this book, and I did read one about the cardinals nesting. There's several about the cardinals nesting and then what happened to that tree, because I couldn't stand that cat eating those babies every year. Okay, so that's kind of a sequel. And I've also written triplets. My current husband has a piece of clothing that is so tattered and debilitated that I want to throw it away, and he loves it. Okay, so I wrote a poem to his yellow sweatshirt, and then I wrote a poem, the sweatshirt's opinion of all of this, and then my opinion of both of those. So they knit together as a threesome, and they reflect back on each other, which was kind of fun to do.
Any questions in the back? Oh, yes, one more.
Talk about your writing routine. Do you wait for inspiration, or do you have a writing routine or a habit?
And talk about your writing routine. What are your habits? Do you have protocols that you follow?
I mentioned it before. My routine is writing every morning, a stream of consciousness, and then whatever's going on, whatever interests me during the day. And then about 3 months later, I go back to those words and see if any of that can be formed into a poem. So it's a system that works for me.
I have kind of a haphazard writing routine. I mentioned that I have these folders, and so if I'm not actively engaged in something current, like maybe the way the sun is coming in here, I can go into those folders and start working on those pieces. I also like to jot down things that I see on the internet that are totally unbelievable. And I'm currently writing a poem about that. There was one, and I'll mention it, about a janitor who was peeing into the water gadget in some office building. I mean, that's just unbelievable. I've got to write about And then sometimes you'll hear something or something will strike you, and I will start writing about that just immediately because I need to get it out. I need to get it out of my system.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today. I have just a few reminders and announcements. We will have books for sale at the end, so please stop up and visit with our poets. So our reminders and announcements. On Thursday, July 24th at 3:30 in the Hall of Philosophy, author Kat Bohannon will discuss her CLSC selection, Eve, How the Female Body Drove 200 Million Years of Human Evolution. Tomorrow at 12:15 on the porch, the Young Readers Program will be discussing two related books, Stranded by Nikki Shannon Smith and Its Inspiration, Hatchet by Gary Paulson. On Friday at 12:15, the Summer on the Steps series continues here on the porch. There will be brief readings from work generated during this week's Writers Center workshops, as well as the reading of the community poem. If you would like to contribute to the community poem, either stop by the Poetry Marketplace adjacent to Holquist or go online to poetry.chq.org and scroll down to the community poem, then click on how to submit and share your voice. Our sister art, the CTC, continues with performances of Execution of Justice, closing on Wednesday. And please join us next week for Author's Hour as poet Carol Jennings will read from her books, The Sustained Pedal and The Dead Spirits at the Piano. And Deb Pines will share a new mystery short story, which, like her novels, is set in Chautauqua. Please consider joining the Friends of the Chautauqua Writer Center and help sponsor all these events that have been mentioned. Videos of the Author's Hour since 2020, including this one, are available on YouTube. Just search for the Friends of the Chautauqua Writer Center channel. Thank you for being here, and we hope to see you at next week's Author's Hour and at any of our other sponsored events. Thank you and take care. A question? Oh, thank you for the correction. Closes Friday. Thank you for being here, everyone.